Ladies and gentlemen, you see, there's a moment in every man's life when he looks at a woman, not with lust, not with confusion, but with that burning question. How can I get her to open up, to melt, to trust me enough to show what's truly inside her? And yet, no matter how confident, charming, or successful he is, he feels this quiet frustration. Because she's there, beautiful and distant, soft yet guarded. And all his words, his jokes, his gestures just seem to fall flat. She smiles, but it's the kind of smile that doesn't reach the soul. And deep down, he knows she hasn't poured her water yet. What does it mean for a woman to pour water? It's not literal. It's the symbol of her release, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's when she stops pretending, stops protecting, and lets her natural flow. Her emotions, her affection, her tenderness wash over you. When she begins to pour, everything changes. Her tone softens. Her energy becomes magnetic. Her care multiplies without being asked for. You no longer have to chase love. You begin to receive it naturally, effortlessly, and deeply. But here's the catch. No woman pours water into a cup that feels unsteady. No woman reveals her softness to a man who doesn't make her feel safe in his stillness. So the one sure way to make her pour water is to be the vessel that can hold it. And that begins with 7 key moves, not tricks, not tactics, but transformations within you. The feminine tests not your words, but your emotional temperature. And the picture, when she throws emotional waves your way, frustration, confusion, even silence, she's not trying to destroy you. She's subconsciously asking, can you hold me when I'm not easy to hold? The more you meet her storms with steadiness, the more she trusts that your presence can contain her emotion. That's when her guard drops. That's when she begins to pour. When she speaks, she's not always asking for a solution. Sometimes she's revealing a world she wants you to enter. Listen not just to what she says, but to what her tone hides. Her sighs, her pauses, her glances, that's the language of water. When you can read it, you stop forcing connection and start feeling it. A man who is anchored in purpose is like a riverbed, strong, certain, dependable. He doesn't need to shout to be seen. His direction is clear, his energy calm, his words intentional. That grounded presence makes her feel safe enough to let go of control. And when she no longer needs to lead emotionally, her natural flow begins. Women open up to men who reflect their emotional intelligence, not mimic it, reflect it. That means you show empathy, but not weakness, understanding, but not submission. When she sees that you can understand her without being swallowed by her feelings, she feels safe in your depth, and that safety births openness. Nothing dries a woman faster than neediness disguised as care. When you attach your worth to her response, when you're trying to get her to open, to please, to approve, you become a cup full of holes. The secret is to hold space without expectation. Let her want to pour. The less you force, the more she flows. A woman's heart responds to inspiration, not instruction. When your actions align with your words, when your integrity, passion, and vision shine, you don't have to ask her to give. She wants to give. You become the kind of man who naturally evokes her softness. Her love becomes her offering, not her duty. When she finally begins to pour, when her affection, care, and vulnerability surface, protect that moment like it's holy. Never mock her emotions, never use them against her, and never take her openness as weakness. Because when a woman pours water, she's giving you access to her essence. And once she sees you can hold it, she'll never stop pouring. So the one sure way to make her pour water isn't to chase her emotion, to manipulate her attention, or to prove yourself. Calmness transforms you from a participant in her storms to the anchor that steadies her through them. You stop trying to control her and start leading with grace. Calm over chaos is not about power over her. It's about power over yourself. It's knowing that emotions are waves, and waves always pass. It's understanding that stillness doesn't mean weakness. It means mastery. When you can remain calm, when others would crumble, you become magnetic. You become the man she doesn't want to escape from, but return to again and again, because your peace reminds her of her own. Listening beyond words is one of the most powerful and underestimated forms of connection a man can offer. Most people hear only what's said, but few truly listen to what's meant. A woman's communication is layered. It's emotional, intuitive, often poetic in nature. When she speaks, her words might be simple, but underneath them lies a current of feeling, fear, hope, and need. To listen beyond words is to tune into that current. It's to hear not only her voice, but her silence, not only her stories, but her pauses, not only her laughter, but what it hides. When you can sense the unsaid, when you can pick up on the rhythm behind her tone, you step into her emotional world. And in that moment, she no longer feels invisible. She feels known. When a woman says, "I'm fine," she's often not. When she pulls away, it doesn't always mean she's lost interest. It might mean she's afraid to need you. When she's quiet, it doesn't necessarily mean she has nothing to say. It might mean she's waiting to see if you'll notice without being told. Listening beyond words means being aware of the energy beneath her actions, not just reacting to them. It's noticing how her tone shifts when she's tired, how her eyes avoid yours when something's wrong, how her energy changes when she's holding back emotion. You don't need to interrogate her. You just need to be present enough to feel her truth. Presence speaks louder than questions ever can. Most men listen to respond. They wait for their turn to fix, to explain, to offer solutions. But women don't open to logic. They open to understanding. She doesn't always want an answer. She wants assurance. She doesn't always need advice. She needs empathy. Listening beyond words means being comfortable in her emotion without rushing to repair it. It's sitting in her discomfort without trying to make it disappear. It's being there fully while she untangles what she feels. When you can hold that kind of space, her guard begins to fall. She stops feeling like she has to carry her emotions alone, and she begins to trust that you can hold them with her. That's where intimacy begins, not in words, but in awareness. A woman measures love in attentiveness. She feels cared for not because of grand gestures, but because you notice the small things others miss. You remember what she said in passing. You sense when something's off even before she says it. You pick up on the shift in her energy when she's bothered, even when she smiles. That sensitivity doesn't make you weak. It makes you emotionally intelligent. It tells her that you're tuned in, that you value her inner world as much as her outer presence. When she realizes you can read her beyond her language, she starts to communicate with more trust and less fear. She begins to open in ways she never could with someone who only listens with his ears. Listening beyond words is also about quieting your own noise. Most people can't hear others because they're too busy listening to their own ego, their own judgments, their need to be right. To truly listen, you have to surrender control. You have to stop listening for your turn to speak and instead listen to understand. It's about letting her story land in you without filtering it through your pride. That kind of listening creates emotional safety, the kind where she feels she can reveal her raw truth without being corrected, shamed, or dismissed. That means when tension arises, you don't feed the fire with impatience. You anchor it with calm. When she's upset, you don't mirror her chaos. You meet it with centered compassion. That doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or suppressing your truth. It means choosing response over reaction, presence over panic. Your steadiness reminds her that the situation can be resolved without war. That's the power of grounded leadership. It doesn't need drama to prove strength. Being grounded also means you're connected to yourself, to your body, to your truth. You're aware of when your energy shifts, when your mind races, when your ego takes over. You don't avoid discomfort. You breathe through it. You return to your center again and again. That kind of self-awareness is rare, but it's what separates a boy seeking control from a man radiating authority. When you embody that awareness, your energy begins to teach her safety. She learns that your presence is not reactive but reliable, not fragile but firm. And that reliability invites her softness to emerge. A grounded man doesn't rush love, chase approval, or fear loss. His energy communicates. I know who I am. I know what I bring, and I can hold space for both our strengths and our storms. When you lead from that place, a woman feels something she can't always explain. A deep exhale, a return to trust. She senses that your leadership isn't about ego, but about direction. You don't push her into submission. You invite her into harmony. You don't seek control. You seek connection rooted in balance. To lead with grounded energy is to become the calm in her chaos, the direction in her doubt, and the peace in her storm. It's to hold your power not in your hands, but in your presence. When your energy is grounded, you don't have to chase respect or affection. They naturally flow toward you, because a man who stands firm in himself becomes a place where others find balance. And in that strength, love begins to trust you enough to flow freely. Mirror her depth is to meet a woman at the level where she truly lives, beneath her words, beneath her actions, in that quiet place where her soul breathes and feels. Every woman carries emotional layers, and most people only ever reach the surface of her. They see her beauty, her charm, her strength, but they miss her essence. To mirror her depth means to reflect that essence back to her, to let her see that you recognize the vastness within her, that you can hold her complexity without judgment or fear. When you can do that, she doesn't just feel seen, she feels understood, validated, and emotionally safe. That kind of safety awakens something in her. It invites her to show more of who she truly is. Depth is her natural state. Women are intuitive beings, emotionally rich and spiritually sensitive. They feel everything with intensity, even the things they don't say out loud. When you meet her on that level, when you can feel her mood without explanation, when you can sense her emotion before she names it, you show her that your connection runs deeper than logic. You prove that you are attuned, that your awareness extends beyond the obvious. To mirror her depth doesn't mean you become as emotional as she is. It means you stay open to what she feels without losing yourself in it. You are not a mirror that simply reflects chaos. You are a mirror that brings clarity. You reflect her emotion, but through your steadiness, you help her understand it. This kind of connection requires emotional intelligence. It means you don't rush to fix her when she's vulnerable, and you don't shrink when she's intense. Instead, you lean in with empathy, with curiosity. You acknowledge what she feels without dismissing or analyzing it away. You might say, I can feel that something's weighing on you, or you're saying, but I can also sense there's more underneath. Utter simple words, yet deeply grounding, because they tell her that you are listening to her soul, not just her sentences. You're not afraid of her emotions, you respect them, and that respect allows her to open even more. To mirror her depth, you must first develop your own. A man without inner depth cannot meet a woman beyond the surface. If you avoid your emotions, she will feel the distance. If you're disconnected from your truth, she will sense instability. A woman's depth can only be met by a man who has faced his own. That means embracing your vulnerability, not hiding from it. It means knowing your fears, understanding your triggers, and learning to stay grounded through your pain. When you do that, you don't just become emotionally strong, you become emotionally available. You learn to connect from presence rather than performance. When you mirror her depth, she doesn't feel like she has to tone herself down. She can be fully expressive without worrying that you'll retreat or judge her. She can share her dreams, her wounds, her wild thoughts, and instead of being met with indifference, she finds resonance. You don't have to agree with everything she says. You just have to meet it with sincerity. You reflect her truth back to her so she feels her own emotions more clearly, but you do so with a calm energy that grounds her. That balance between empathy and steadiness is what builds emotional trust. Many men mistake mirroring for mimicry. They think being emotionally available means becoming reactive or over-involved, but true mirroring is not imitation, it's reflection. It's being aware of her energy, feeling it, and meeting it with consciousness. When she's sad, you don't drown in her sadness. You hold space for it. When she's passionate, you don't compete. You flow with it. When she's uncertain, you don't fix her. You anchor her with presence. That's how a woman feels depth. Not from a man who reacts, but from one who relates. There's a quiet power in being able to look into her eyes and let her feel that you understand her without explanation. When she feels that, she softens. The walls she built for protection start to crumble, and her love begins to flow more naturally. She no longer needs to hide her intensity because you've shown her it's not too much. It's welcome. You've given her the gift of emotional reflection. To mirror her depth is to be both strong and tender, logical and intuitive, masculine and emotionally aware. It's to hold space for her heart without losing your own balance. When she feels that, she knows she's not alone in her depth anymore. She knows she's found someone who can not only see her, but feel her. And that is the kind of connection that doesn't just attract. It transforms. To detach from outcome is to free yourself from the invisible chains of expectation. The need for things to go your way, for people to respond how you want, for situations to unfold according to your plan. It's the quiet art of surrender, not out of weakness, but out of strength. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means emotional maturity. It means doing your best, Giving your truth, showing up fully, and then letting go of what happens next. It's about trusting that what's meant for you will stay, and what isn't will naturally fade. When it comes to relationships, especially with a woman, detachment is the difference between attraction and desperation, between confidence and control. The moment you cling, you lose your power. The moment you release, you reclaim it. A woman can feel when a man is attached to the outcome of her response. It's in the way he waits for her text, the way his mood changes with her attention, the way his energy shifts when she pulls back. That safety becomes the foundation upon which deep love can rest. She doesn't need you to be flawless. She needs to know that your strength is dependable. When your energy is grounded in honesty, she can relax into your presence fully. You become her safe space, not because you control her, but because she trusts you with her heart. Every sacred connection carries energy that must be nurtured. It's not just about what you say, but how you treat the unseen, the pauses, the silence, the small moments of affection, the way you look at her when she's not speaking. Protecting the sacred is about presence. It's about giving full attention to the moment instead of being distracted by your phone, your pride, or your fears. When you are truly present, you make her feel chosen, and that feeling of being seen, valued, and prioritized is what turns ordinary love into something divine. But the sacred is fragile. It can be lost through neglect, dishonesty, or emotional laziness. When you take her openness for granted, when you break promises, or when you allow routine to dull your appreciation, you erode what once felt holy. Protecting it requires awareness, choosing daily to treat her not as an obligation, but as a blessing. You honor her not because you have to, but because you recognize the rarity of what she's offering. You understand that sacred energy cannot be demanded. It can only be cherished. To protect the sacred is to realize that true connection is not something you own. It's something you're entrusted with. It's a privilege, not a possession. And when you treat it with reverence, it grows stronger, deeper, and more alive. The woman who feels that her love is safe in your hands will keep pouring. She will keep giving, because when the sacred is protected, it doesn't just last, it thrives.